Hi there, folks. Elaine Fraze, Farm Family Coach. And I just want to show this beautiful bouquet of spring flowers that a girlfriend gave to me this week. And lots of things are changing, and it's great to see the snow receding from our garden and from the fields. And hopefully, May 1st is still the targeted date for getting things done. Today, I want to talk to you about transition and things that make my heart sing. I was just recently in Grafton, North Dakota, doing Finding Fairness and Farm Transition Workshop. And it was a very empowering day. Lots of people who'd heard my message on the podcast, on the Successful Farming podcast, and our own podcast, Farm Family Harmony podcast.com. If you haven't gone to it, please do. And then I also was just realizing too how important it is to have something to look forward to. So I'm looking forward to Easter and having family together, and I hope you are too, and looking forward to the seeding season. Things are pretty chaotic right now, and uncertain times create a lot of anxiety. But regardless of what circumstance you find you and your farm family in right now, I really want you to think about what is important for you in your transition. So the plot is based on my last column on March 18th that I wrote for Grain News. And I talked about Olga, who found my column in the bottom of her underwear drawer when she was cleaning it out after her husband died. And she saw my phone number and she picked it up and was really surprised to hear my voice. But we had a lovely conversation. And then there was Lois, this woman from Edmonton who would frequently write me 3-page letters talking about her current life and challenging me on what new articles I should be writing. And so so you know, the blog will continue. You'll still be getting these insights, but I'll be sharing more of the writing time going forward with our coaching team, with Lydia and Kaylin and Lyle and Crystal and Alyssa, who all have different perspectives and great insights to share with you as well. I also mentioned the Frasers who read my column a long time ago, which they entitled Hire a Love Consultant. My title was originally How to Use a Matchmaker, and this was long before dating apps were ever a thing. And the Frasers got connected, fell in love with each other, and invited me to their wedding. So it was a really fun way to see the outcome of a column. So I put these newsletters forward and have been putting them forward for a long time now, and I'd really like to hear back from you. I particularly would like to hear back from those of you who are Canadian-based advisors, and if I haven't been to your part of Canada lately, I am coming to Halifax at the beginning of December of 2025, so if we can arrange some meetings around that time, it would be great. And I'd love to come back to BC, to the Fraser Valley, to help chicken farmers and dairy farmers and young farmers and all kinds of farmers in BC as well, if that's something that you would like to see happen. Now, Crystal Gonzalez is one of my coaches, and she met me through her husband, Gerardo Reimer, when he was reading a piece in Progressive Dairy and said, "Hey, Crystal, I think you'd like to meet this woman." So they jumped in their car and they drove for 2 days in their Volkswagen station wagon. And wouldn't you know, now a few years later, we have a wonderful coaching relationship. And Crystal does a lot of the background work on our membership site. So in my column, I write about Gino Wickman's new book called Shine, and he talks about having a 10-year plan. So I'd just like you to sit down for a second and think, what is your life going to look like 10 years from now, or what would you like it to look like? And 10 years from now, my granddaughter Penny is going to be graduating high school. Her sister Ruby will be driving, and her brother will likely be on the combine with Wes at age 15. So there's lots of change to look forward to, and I just saw a note on one of my walls about an exercise encouragement, and I looked at the date, and it was 2015, and that was 10 years ago, and the 10 years went by super fast. So when you're letting go of things, especially as you're trying to transition to the farm and look like what stepping back looks like stepping away to you, what are your new roles going to be? And what does it look like to let go of things? Because you really need to have something to look forward to. So I'm still looking forward to producing the podcast and working on the membership site. I'm also looking forward to not having deadlines anymore with Grain News, although this blog will certainly still continue to be a deadline because we would like to serve you through these insights. But as a woman in faith, I also wanted to jump off some scriptures to remind us about planning. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, but a longing fulfilled is a tree of life. And that's from Proverbs 13:12. And many times young farmers are calling me because, Elaine, they're just They're saying, I don't have any hope left. I can't get people to the table. It's been years. I've got to get some certainty. And I met a young man this week who's actually the grandson of the founder, and he is working very hard to get more agreements in place because his grandparents are not getting any younger. The mind of man plans his way, but the Lord directs his steps. And another version says, we can make many plans, but God directs our steps. And so again, we need to have the momentum. And so just start chunking down. Have you got your will updated? Do you have a power of attorney? Have you worked on your healthcare directive? Have you started looking at new houses or housing options in town? Are you thinking about buying an RTM and moving it to the yard site across the shelter belt? Make many plans, but God will direct your steps. But you have to choose to act. Another proverb in 11:14 says, where there is no guidance, the people fall. But in an abundance of counselors, there is victory. And the good news is that many farm families are using therapists and people to help them with their mental health. There's a lot of stress and anxiety over lower commodity prices, higher inputs, uncertain markets. These things we've seen before, folks. And those of us who've grown up and navigated the 80s and 90s, I know young farmers don't want to hear about that anymore, but it's the thing. This is not our first rodeo. So look to the older generation for guidance, but also have an abundance of counselors. And don't be afraid to reach out to the Do More Ag Foundation or the National Farmers Mental Health Alliance or betterhelp.com and find people that can help you navigate some of the things that are causing you anxiety. Another verse in James chapter 4, verse 2 says, you do not have because you do not ask. So ask better questions, don't make assumptions, and ask for help is not a sign of weakness. So asking our coaching team for facilitation to bring people together. We'll coach you one-on-one as individuals first, and then we'll bring you together for a family meeting, and then you'll feel like 50 pounds is lifted off your shoulders. Matthew 13 talks about you will reap what you sow. And this is all about the culture of your farm, how you believe, what you believe to be true, how do you behave, and how do you make decisions together. So it's important to sow harmony to your farm family and be careful to work in alignment with your cherished beliefs. So we do have a values cloud that we can send you, or a values style indicator assessment that you can do online that will also help you look towards what's important to you. And hopefully the goal is to make decisions collaboratively between the generations so that you can have a common interest of having everyone's need considered and hopefully met. Now, Philippians 2 verse 4 is one of my favorite verses because it's the reason we built an apartment complex with a group of other families in our town so that farmers would have a decent place to retire to and still be close to the farm. Now, Philippians 2 verse 4 says, do not merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. And if you really want to take a look, we live in a pretty self-centered world. And Easter is total celebration of Resurrection Sunday and Jesus rising from the dead. He is risen indeed. And the fact that those of us who are Christ and Jesus followers have the hope and the assurance of eternal life. We have something beyond this life to look forward to, and we know we're not taking it with us. And we also know that servant-hearted leadership is the best kind of leadership. Another verse says, love one another deeply. Above all, keep fervent in your love for one another because love covers a multitude of sins. And this is just a reminder to take care of your marriage and your family relationships. Again, I was just doing this seminar this week in Grafton, North Dakota, and, every time I speak, there's always stories about, Elaine, I need to have your information on estrangement because there's certain family branches of the family tree that have severed off and aren't likely going to be put back together very easily because people have chosen not to be loving towards one another. It also rears its ugly head when there's greed and entitlement. So I look forward to the time and to having more time currency with my family as I am no longer the regular columnist for Grain News. My coaches will be putting information there, and we'll also still be coming to you on this newsletter, blog/video to encourage you in very practical ways. And I just would like to close in saying your handwritten cards, and I thank Lisa Gunther for sending this to me, My box number is 957 Boismain, ROKOEO. And to me, this is my love language, words of affirmation. So I hope these words today remind you that transition can make your heart sing when you have good things in place, good advisors. You keep taking the next step, and you have a very clear idea of what you want to let go and what you want to move towards. Stop and enjoy the flowers. Smell the lilies this Easter. Celebrate with your family as you gather. And remember to be thankful for all you've been given. See you next time.